The International Criminal Court has announced that they are filling out applications. They have filled out applications for arrest warrants for members of Hamas and for Benjamin Netanyahu. A statement was made, in fact, today from Karim Khan. Karim Khan is the ICC's prosecutor, and he has very clearly said that he's completed an application for arrest warrants for crimes due directly to the October 7th and post-October 7th war in Gaza. Now, let's be clear. He filled out applications for Netanyahu and for Hamas, but nobody cares about the Hamas part. What do I mean when I say that? I mean, nobody's outraged that Hamas is getting criminal court applications filed or warrants filed against them. I would argue they deserve them. And most people would argue that they deserve them, right? Yahya Sinwar, who's the head of the Islamic resistance movement, that's what Hamas means in Arabic. Mohammed Diab Ibrahim al-Masri, he's the commander-in-chief of the military wing of Hamas, also known as Al-Qassam brigades. And then Ismail Haniyeh, who's the head of the Hamas political bureau. He says that they bear criminal responsibility for war crimes. War crimes. And this is important because every time I've said that Netanyahu is guilty of war crimes, people say, well, what about Hamas? Hamas is guilty of war crimes too. It's just nobody's disputing that part. That was the easy part. Extermination as a crime against humanity. Murder as a crime against humanity. These are both, against the Rome Statute. Taking hostages as a war crime. Rape and other acts of sexual violence as crimes against humanity. Torture as a crime against humanity. Other inhumane acts as a crime against humanity. Cruel treatment as a war crime. Outrages upon personal dignity as a war crime. These were the charges against the members of Hamas. Nobody's outraged by that. And they shouldn't be. So that ain't the good part. That ain't the good part. And when I say the good part, I mean the part that required effort, the part that challenged common sense, the part that challenged what mainstream media outlets have been lying to y'all about. They also filed them charges against Netanyahu. In the same letter, he said, I have reasonable grounds to believe that Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, and Yoav Gallant, the minister of defense of Israel, bear criminal responsibility for the following crimes against humanity and war crimes committed on the territory of the state of Palestine in the Gaza Strip. So he said they're guilty of war crimes too. Starvation of civilians as a method of warfare. Told y'all, willfully causing great suffering or seriously bodily injury or health contrary to Article 8, or cruel treatment as a war crime. Willful killing contrary to Article 8, or murder as a war crime contrary to Article 8. Intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population as a war crime. Extermination and or murder contrary to the articles, including in the context of death caused by starvation. Persecution as a crime against humanity and other inhumane acts. So everything I've been telling you, everything the left has been telling you, the real left, everything that the pro-Palestinian movement has been telling you, everything that human rights organizations have been telling you, these are war crimes. These are crimes against humanity in the International Criminal Court, which is different than the ICJ. The ICJ, the Hague that we've been seeing coming out of the UN, that is a different body who doesn't deal with the issues connected to war. This stuff begins on October 8th for Netanyahu. It begins on October 7th for Hamas. Again, what we've been saying, Hamas committed crimes on October 7th, and Israel's response is also criminal. So they got some arrest warrants coming for you. Now, we've seen arrest warrants before, and we'll be covering this all week, all month, however long we got to cover it. So we'll be breaking this down in greater detail. But please understand that these warrants are real. And if Netanyahu pops up in the wrong country, he will get snatched up. Now, the truth of the matter is, of course, many countries don't respect this. If Netanyahu came to the United States, he wouldn't get arrested. If Netanyahu went to Canada, he wouldn't get arrested. If he went to Germany or France or a million other places, he wouldn't get arrested. But as Vladimir Putin, what happened when he showed his behind to the southern part of Africa? He had to get out there running. We got to be honest about this stuff, but we also have to be consistent. And too often the ICC has been the ACC. It hasn't been the International Criminal Court. It's been the African Criminal Court. We only lock up African leaders. But now we have an example of Netanyahu being locked up or being charged, excuse me. And that is exactly what needs to happen. But guess who came out defending Netanyahu? Genocide Joe. That's right, Joe Biden, the same person who just went to Morehouse and said, yo, I am for peace. I am for justice. I want this thing to end. That same guy said the ICC is wrong for charging Netanyahu, basically saying that Israel hasn't committed any crimes that are punishable. Well, Joe, if you believe that, then you ain't got eyes. I know you were asleep during the graduation, but I know you're awake right now, Mr. President. Pay attention to the records. Pay attention to the evidence. This is obvious. And my frustration with this is he's publicly acting as if he's doing all he can to stop this. Not only is Netanyahu guilty, Joe Biden is probably guilty too of war crimes, of complicity. When you start giving people weapons and money, knowing what it's going to do, then you are complicit as well, according to the conventions on genocide. So if you believed any of them crocodile tears at Morehouse College, less than 24 hours later, his defense of Israel and his critique of the ICC is evidence that he don't give a damn about Palestinians, and he don't give a damn even about pretending to longer than a day and a stupid speech at Morehouse.